All right. So, happy Friday, everyone. It's morning for me here in Colorado. And, yeah. So, today we're going to be doing some modern rigging inside of Animate. So this is a new workflow, a new set of tooling that we can use to create motion in Animate. It works on bitmap images. It works on vector shapes. So a lot of opportunity here for doing some neat stuff. And today I'm going to use this little kitty cat here that I grabbed off of Adobe stock. We're going to use one of these poses. So, as I often mention in my streams here on Behance, Adobe stock absolutely has a great set of free assets you can use. So if you don't want to draw a little kitty yourself, you don't have time for it, you can just grab a kitty off Behance and work with it that way. So, how's everybody doing today? I notice there's a few people on the stream live, so welcome. Hope you have your coffee, your tea, whatever, sorted. So let's see what we got here. This is Illustrator, of course. So let's flip over to Animate. So here is Adobe Animate. And actually, it's funny. I guess it was last weekend I finished a major recording project for Peach Pit, and a lot of my settings on the screen here are still exactly what I had set up for that. So I had to reset some stuff. Let's go ahead and have a look. So I've got just a default kind of 550 by 400 stage here. Stage is white. Let's go ahead and change that. I don't know what color it should be. Let's do just a little gray. When things are white and stark, they just make it difficult to work, in my opinion. And of course, you can change your defaults when you create a new document in Animate as well. So let's have a look here. Let's flip back over to Illustrator. What I basically need to do is figure out which one of these kitty cat poses I want to use as my animation. I'm kind of thinking of going with this one in the middle here. It's a very kind of, I don't know, these are funny though. I like his kind of like derpy little face. So yeah, I think I'll use this one, but I like this one too. That's kind of like from the back side. But let's start with this one. So I'm going to select the object. There are many different ways of getting content from Illustrator into Animate, right? So Animate is primarily a vector-based program, and Illustrator is primarily a vector-based program. You can use bitmaps in both of them, right? But yeah, vectors are kind of where they shine. Oh, I want to mention too, if you're interested in looking at this workflow, I do have a new features update in LinkedIn Learning. So if you do subscribe to LinkedIn Learning, formerly lynda.com, you can access my new features course for Animate. And we have a December 2021 update with a focus on everything we're going over today, modern rigging, in a less conversational way, right? More to the point. Also, my new book is out. You can see that above the LinkedIn Learning badge, above my head. That book has an entirely new chapter that's focused on modern rigging. So, two good resources to explore this further after this all comes about. Also on LinkedIn Learning is essential training for Animate. So that was actually just updated 2 days ago. So update it for essential training for Adobe Animate on LinkedIn Learning. So check it out. All right. Let's see what we got here. I got my kitty cat. And please do be conversational, right? The chat exists for you to communicate with me and for me to respond. And I don't want to feel like I'm just hanging out here talking with myself. I know you're out there, so be conversational. Let me know how you're doing. It can be something completely different from what we're talking about. For instance, this is, so I'm, for those who are new, I'm faculty at CU Boulder, up in Boulder, Colorado, and we just had our first fully in-person week of class. So super, super cool, super, everything seems great, safe, and so forth. And it's great to be back on campus. I think the students really enjoy being on campus as well. So I'm excited about that. We had a 2-week pause, or not a pause, a 2-week remote instruction because of the fires that we had in Boulder recently. It tore through a bunch of neighborhoods and displaced a lot of people. So we didn't want to have 30,000 students coming back while they're dealing with that sort of thing, So we did a remote start to avoid that, but now we're back. So here we are, Adobe Stock. I got this kitty cat here. I got him selected, and see that. You can do a Command-C or Control-C if you're on Windows to copy this. And this is something a lot of people don't know about, right? So you can actually, my hair's still wet from my shower. You can actually just copy and paste stuff from Illustrator into Animate, and it works really, really well. So I just did a copy there. Let's pop back over to Adobe Animate. Here we are inside of Animate. I'm just gonna do a Command-V or Control-V, paste in, and it asks me a couple questions, right? It's like, well, what are you doing, Joseph? Do you want to paste as a bitmap? Do you want to paste using the Adobe Illustrator file importer preferences? And then some additional choices based upon that. So I'm gonna just say, okay, I'm gonna leave it at the defaults. And boom, there we go. So check that out. We can see in our object here, it's a group. And if we double click to go inside this group, we can see there's another group. We double click that, bam. Look at all these little shapes. So these are all imported as tiny little vector shapes, drawing objects into Animate. So like, if we wanted to change all of his colors, we could do that here, right? So I'm gonna do a Command-B, break apart, and then check that out. We could change his stripes, right? So it's all vector information. I'm gonna keep it like it is. I like his colors. Go back to scene 1, which is the root scene. And let's, gosh, I'm not sure what he should be. Here, this is a good interaction for the chat, right? So this cat, I'm gonna make him be, batting at something, or clawing at something. I don't know, something like that. You know how cats are. What should I animate this cat doing? Let me know in the chat what you're thinking about. What do you want to see this cat do? A feather. Erica, hello. How are you? So Erica just posted in the chat. Erica is an Adobe education leader as well. And actually, next week, next Friday, a week from now, I think we're scheduled to have a live stream chat. If that's still good for you, Erica. Perfect. Yeah, so I will get you more information about that as the week goes on. So what are you up to, Erica? Are you working on anything? You got a lot of classes going on. How's everything going with that? A feather. That's a good idea. Getting classes built. Yeah. So if we do a feather, I could put a feather on a string. That might be fun. So for that, let's go ahead and rename this layer to cat. And we'll create a new layer. Call it feather. Yeah, Animate's cool. I mean, you know, Flash takes a lot of flack, you know? And, you know, Animate being the current version of Flash Professional, you know, it still retains a bit of that stigma from those days, which is undeserved, even for Flash, in my opinion. But it is what it is. Hard to change people's minds about things. So I'm gonna try to find a feather. I could draw a feather, but you know, like I said earlier, it's pretty easy to grab stuff from Adobe stock. So I just did a quick look here, and look at all these great feathers we have. This one is cool. I like this black feather. I'm gonna grab that sucker right now. Yeah, so look at all the free stuff, you know? Adobe stock is such a great resource. I mean, it always was, but with this free library, I mean, you know, everybody likes free stuff. And if you're just doing a project like a demo for this, right? Like I'm doing here. I mean, it's not for anyone. It's not for a client, right? It's just for this stream. It's just to have fun. And yeah, it's great. So let's see here. Where's my finder? There it is. So the feather is a JPEG. There it is. Am I going to need to remove the background from this feather? Let's just drag it right in here. Oh yeah. Okay. So in that case, instead of just dragging it in like that, here's another trick with Animate. So right here, Adobe stock, I just dragged that in. I removed it from the stage, right? Check that out. Edit with Adobe Photoshop 2022. So you can edit bitmaps with Photoshop directly from within Animate, which is a great feature. So Erica says that she used Flash for web banners. Yeah. I had a number of client jobs that I did where we created web banners using Flash as well. I particularly remember a couple I did for Sonicare, the toothbrush company, and they're pretty cool. They're still cool, you know? I mean, Flash was great for that stuff, which is probably part of why people hate it so much. All right, so here it's open up Photoshop for me. So let's go into our document properties here. Actually, let's remove the background from this. You can see we have our quick actions in the properties panel. There we go. So easy. We completely remove the background, and now I can just do a Command S or Control S. I do need to save it as a PSD or JPEG or whatever. Actually, let's go ahead and rasterize this layer, make it come here, buddy. So it's always a trick. Is flatten image going to do it? No, it puts the layer back in. So I'm gonna, oh gosh, image layer. I don't want to flatten it. Let's go ahead and apply layer mask, and then flatten. Nope, that didn't do it either. Come on, buddy. What do you want me to do? What do you want, guy? Layer. Merge visible. There we go. That is what I want. Save. It's bugging me to save it as that same file, right? So, come on, man. Oh, whatever. Let's just save the damn thing. Thanks, Photoshop. Thanks for nothing, man. All right. So, you can round trip with this feature, but for whatever reason, it didn't want to work for me. So, what we're gonna do is just drag it in again. Drag in that PSD file. And it's gonna be, ask me with a dialog to say, hey Joseph, what do you wanna do with this PSD file? So I'm gonna just bring it in as a flattened bitmap image. And yeah, let's go ahead and create a movie clip of the feather. We'll just name it feather. Creating a movie clip symbol from this directly is just going to allow me to you know, make it tweenable. It is huge. Look at the size of that feather. Oh boy. Massive. So we're gonna go ahead and resize this because that's ridiculous. That's more appropriate right there, right? Hello. And you know, you could always convert to bitmap. And there it is as a bitmap. Now let's go ahead and convert to symbol. Feather, small. There we go. Now we have a nice, manageable, small feather bitmap image that we can use for our kitty cat. Yeah, the feather was huge. It was way too big. I really should have just resized it in Photoshop. I didn't realize how large it was. But that's okay, because as you can see, we can just translate it to a new bitmap image inside of Animate. So here's our feather. You know what we can do? We can actually use modern rigging on both the cat and the feather. I'm gonna enter into the feather movie clip symbol. Maybe we should make this cat a little smaller. I don't want to make him too small, but I don't know. I want room for the feather also. You know what I mean? Let's double click on this guy. Add new layer. Because I want the feather to be on a string. That is quite a string, Joseph. Let's take that stroke size down a little bit. Or a lot bit, as is necessary. Yeah, I don't know. 3, I think, is gonna work. Yeah, that works. Maybe make it a little less opaque. There we go. Well, jeez, that doesn't look great. We'll just go with it. What am I doing? There we go. Scene 1. So now this is an entire movie clip symbol. All right. Good. We have this kitty cat. Kitty cat friend. Seated appropriately. All right, so we got 2 different objects now. We've got this feather, and we have a kitty cat, right? So something to know about the modern rigging feature. Hey, guy, I didn't save this yet. Kitty. Hello. Kitty. Gosh, is it just early or what? It's just been a week, I guess. So. We've got our kitty cat here. So, as I was saying, let's go ahead and actually just blow this up. I don't know why I actually made this. I wasn't thinking I was going to use these tools to actually animate the feather. So that's why I made it a symbol. But let's go ahead and just convert this to a bitmap. So right click and just convert to bitmap. It's going to take that stroke that I made and the feather itself, render it as a bitmap. The kitty cat is a vector shape. So how this operates right now, you've got kind of a choice. So let's go ahead and click on our asset warp tool. This is what allows for modern rigging, right? And if we go into the Animate preferences, so Animate preferences on macOS, Edit preferences on Windows, edit those. Now, I'm not sure. I can't drawing, I think maybe in drawing. Ah, there we go. So if we go to our drawing preferences, and this is like sort of a hidden feature not a lot of people know about with the asset warp tool in modern rigging. You can see here under drawing, asset warp tool, auto convert vector to bitmap for better warping and tweening. So this is especially useful on complex vector images. It'll convert it to a bitmap. You can always uncheck this if you want to retain bitmap images, right? But I'm gonna keep it. I don't care if the kitty cat turns into a bitmap, but it's good to know about. So here's my asset warp tool. So what you first do, if you want to use this, you gotta define your different little armatures within the object, right? So the first thing you do with the asset warp tool is you select the image that you want to actually do this to. So it's a group of vector shapes. Perfect. So now I have to define my bones. I can see the tail being a set of bones. This arm here for sure, maybe the little kitty's head. So let's start with the tail. I'm gonna click on his bottom. I didn't make this NSFW, but maybe it is here. I'm gonna boop, click on his bottom. There we go. So yeah, that creates a joint. So this is a pin or a joint, and it creates a mesh around this object, right? Again, this is a completely new feature inside of Animate. And you go through and define these bones. Now, if we look here for our tool properties, create bones is actually toggled off. So I'm gonna turn that on because I do want to draw bones. There's two ways to use this tool. One way is to just define warp points or just like free floating joints. The other way is to create bones between the joints, right? So I want to create bones. The bone type by default is going to be hard bones. There's two types of bones inside here. We're going to use both inside of this example. But for the tail, I'm going to use hard bones because the cat has hard bones in its tail, right? For the string and feather, I'm going to use soft bones. So let's go ahead and make sure that's selected. Oops. And notice now, as I'm moving around here, actually, let's fill the screen, fit in window. You can see it gives me a little preview of where that bone is going to be created. So let's go ahead and add another little joint right here. And there we go. There's our first bone. The root joint is a square. And then we're just going to go up the tail. Boop, boop, boop. I love this new workflow. This is great. It's so easy to use. People are so scared of Animate. Like, I don't want to distort it. There we go. So you can do basically like a puppet warp kind of thing with this, right? So any of these joints can be moved. If you want the cat to wag his tail like a dog, no problem. So there we go. So what'll happen, right? So if I keep on like creating bones here, what's going to happen is it's going to build off of this same armature and the same root joint. So what I want to do is click off of all of these things. Click just on the pasteboard or, you know, in an empty area of the stage. And what I get is, you know, none of these are selected now. You can tell because there's not a red dot inside of any of them. So that means I can create a new set of bones over here. So let's create a new root joint. And then I get my little fellow here. Cool, right? So you can have multiple armatures within a single object using this workflow. I'm going to click off onto the stage again to deselect all my bones. And I just want to do a little thing so he can move his head around a little bit. So just a very simple little armature right there. So he can kind of rock out. Nice. All right, I'm also going to disable my mesh, actually. So we don't have to like look at the mesh as we're going through here. And in the comments, I'm wondering if anybody has actually used these tools and workflows yet. They're brand new as of December of this past year. So perhaps people are still a bit unfamiliar with them, right? All right, so cool. Oh, let's clean up our timeline here. 2 should be feather. So I got cat and feather on the timeline. Let's now go and set up our armature for this fellow. And this is going to be pretty easy. So select the object with the asset warp tool, set your first pin, and then your secondary pin, right? So we've created right here a hard bone, of course, and that's just going to, oh, you know what? I did it opposite. I did it incorrectly. Let's undo, Control or Command Z. I want to have the root of my bone there, and then take it down to my feather, because then it can do like this, right? So yeah, I mean, hard bone, it's not that great. It's okay. If we look in the object warp options here, we can see that this bone type is set to hard because that's the default. So let's change it to a soft bone. Boom. And look at that. Now it looks like more of a rope instead of like a hard, like triangle kind of thing. And now when we do it, it's much more, like check that out. Like the length of the string doesn't change. It just sort of squishes in to be more realistic, right? So it's great for things like hair, materials, rope, tentacles. So Erica mentions in the chat, new to Animate, have used Character Animator. Yeah, Character Animator is a fun tool. It's not something I use a ton. So let's see here. What do we have? We've got our armatures set up now. So now we need to animate these things. So what we're gonna do is, I don't know, let's fill up, I don't know, 2 seconds worth of frames here. So insert those frames. And I love this feature too. This is, I mean, it's fairly new in the last couple of years. These sort of like extra tools along the timeline here. It used to be just basically playback stuff, onion skinning, things like that. Now you've got the ability to insert different types of frames and keyframes just from the little UI right here, which is pretty nice. So for my feather, for my cat, let's do the cat first because the cat is directly influencing the feather, right? So here we go. There's my... So let's get a sense for the timing. That's something I always want to do inside of Animate. We're at 24 frames per second. So I'm going to go back to the beginning and hit return or enter. And let's set up our first keyframe here. All right, now that I've established a new keyframe, I can start manipulating. And you probably want to start with very subtle movements, right? There we go. We've got 2 poses now. So at this point, let's insert a keyframe right there in the feather layer. And here, let's insert one here and kind of make this. So I'm just inserting keyframes and manipulating the assets, right? And right now it's basically a frame by frame animation, right? It's still making use of all of the different pieces that we have, right? And if we play this back, it's great. So little kitty cat, he goes and does that. So, go back to the cat here. Put his head back. So yeah, really subtle little movements are probably best for this sort of thing. So now that we've got this animation going, it is frame by frame, but of course, we want to add some tweens. So I'm going to select all these different keyframes here. And then up top, we're going to create a classic tween between these. Boom. So now if we turn on our looping feature, and let's loop this. Cool. So there's a couple things here that we can do to this, right? It's very linear right now in terms of the animation. Let's go ahead and actually add some easing presets to this stuff, especially on the feather right here, right? And actually, the feather doesn't move until there. I mean, we can remove that tween right there. So for the feather, we want it to start off fast and then slow down as it goes out, right? So what I'm going to do is select anywhere within this tween in the feather layer and choose for our easing effect and ease out. And we want it to be pretty severe. So I'm going to double click on Quart. See how that looks. Yeah, it's too severe. Okay. Let's just do a quad. Yeah, it's okay. And you know, I mean, we can do the same thing with the cat's movements too. I think they're probably pretty okay right now. But yeah, we can tweak that later on. Let's get some more poses in here. So what happens, right? Boom. The feather's gonna have to go back toward the cat's face. So let's go maybe like right there and add a little classic tween. This is cool. So what we're gonna do is do an ease in for this. Let's just do quad again. And right now it looks kind of silly because it just like hangs there at the end, right? And it's all about timing with this stuff. So when that happens, how would the cat react, right? Cat will probably react around here. That's great. Move his head back. His tail's probably gonna do a little something there, right? Adding that classic tween. Cool. See how easy this is, right? Like, people don't need to be scared of Animate. And I don't understand why people are. I mean, I don't know, I kind of do. Because it's, you know, a lot of people see Animate as like, still see it as like a tool that's difficult because you know, for the longest time it was like, I mean, it was a programming environment, right? Ooh. Gotta respond to one of my teaching assistants right now. They've got recitations today for my students, and one of them is a bit lost. found the room. So yeah, like I mentioned at the beginning, this is the first time, the first week that we're teaching back on campus in person for this semester. So, you know, there's a bit of getting acclimated to all of that, right? You know, I'm very excited because after this stream is over, I am going to make some nice bread. It's something I've been doing for a while. Maybe like a month or two. I've gotten back into baking bread, and I've just got my technique and the recipe and everything down so well now that it's like the best bread. I'm just super happy with it. And I made a double batch of Foolish last night that is almost completely ripened and ready for me to incorporate into my dough. And then I'll bake afterwards. So that was an ease in. Let's do an ease out. Once again, quad ease out. Cool. So, little kitty. These have to be more aligned, obviously. And you know, that's not quite correct, is it? Let's copy that frame right there. And paste and overwrite right there. So what does that do, right? That paste and overwrite, so it doesn't extend timeline at all. Let's remove that classic tween right there, because yeah, cool. Hey, actually, I mean, this should move a little bit, so just a little bit. We can add that classic tween back right there. But we do need to have the kitty cat strike. It's very, very good. No! It's okay. All right, so basically at this point, right, we want to just end up where we ended up. We want to create a seamless loop of this kitty cat striking the feather, right? So let's go ahead and copy this frame right here. And then over here, we'll paste and overwrite frames. Then right here as well, copy this keyframe, paste and overwrite frames. And then we don't need these extra frames here. Let's remove them. Add in that tween. his motion is not entirely correct. Here's something we can do. Let's extend this out a little bit. And then we're going to insert additional frames. The problem is right here at the last keyframe, it's the exact same as the first keyframe, right? So why is that bad? It's bad because when we loop it, watch that last keyframe, there's a little slight pause because it's the same frame repeated twice, right? So what we can do is select both of the previous frames, insert keyframes, select those existing keyframes and remove them, and then just shift this guy back. You know, I like this, but we need to give the kitty cat a background. And, I mean, let's give a little bit of easing to the kitty cat here. Easing out. Something really soft, like a quad. There we go. Makes it look a bit more physical, more realistic. Again, how is everyone doing out there? I've only heard from Erica. Nobody else has mentioned anything. So, I hope you're all okay. I hope you're not, you know, maybe. Let's go back to Adobe stock. Hi, it's Adobe stock. Let's go and look for, I don't know, living room. I just want a cozy place for this cat to live in, right? Yeah. Well, this one's kind of cozy. I don't know. These all look fake. Here, let's grab this one. I'll just use a basic backdrop. Grab this sucker down. Boom. And we can open Finder. Let's create a new layer. Layer 4, rename it to background or BG or whatever you want to call it. And we're just gonna, hey. There we go. So we've added that. And I'm gonna have to zoom out quite a bit probably because Adobe stock stuff is pretty large usually, which is good. You want a nice high resolution photograph. However, oh, hey bud. So I created the keyframe right there. What? Okay, let's just drag that back over to frame 1. Look at that. Mmm. Good kitty. That's pretty cool. I mean, you know, it didn't take a lot to animate that. And of course you could refine it a bit, which, you know, if you had the time, you would do. But we can now take this and export it as whatever we want. A little movie, a little GIF. So maybe like, oh, you know what? Let's just do quick publish here. So up top here, quick share and publish. Let's do a social share onto Twitter. Good kitty. Meow. There it goes. Onto Twitter. Well, it has to interface with Media Encoder first. So I guess we'll give it a moment. It's always a good idea, and I probably should have done this. It's always a good idea to open Adobe Media Encoder before you try to... Yeah, it's not doing it. It's being a little weirdo, so let's kind of open it up manually. Adobe Media Encoder, you monster. Hello, Vikram. How are you? Glad to be here. Good to hear. Media Encoder is opening to export my little kitty cat. You know, let's just cancel this for now, because there's other stuff we can do to our cat and our feather, right? Let's actually look at adding a little bit of dimensionality to the cat. So if I choose the cat layer, I can actually use different layer effects, including filters. So let's add a filter. Drop shadow. Boo, look at that. Ooh, that's cool. All right. Zoop, 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 zoop. Let's add a little drop shadow here. Change the distance. That is sick. I like that. We can change the angle. The angle's pretty good right now, though, because we got that lamp right there, right? So the angle's kind of spot on. I don't know. Change that distance, though. Yeah, it's pretty good. Dude, I love this tool. Let's add some drop shadow to the filter too. Or the feather too. Drop shadow. The distance for the drop shadow, of course, is going to be more because, well, I mean, is it? I don't know. It's going to be behind the cat anyway. It's going to be probably less opaque because it's a filter, right? Ah, that's pretty cool. Look at that. All right. So, Media Encoder, are you open and ready to go? Yes. All right, let's try this again. Social share, Twitter. Good kitty. Good kitty. Should publish now. There we go. Much better. And if we look at my Twitter, there we go. Look at that. It's published it to my Twitter account. Man, that drop shadow, I am glad that I did that. It works out pretty nice. That's a sick drop shadow, Joseph. We can also share as, we can publish to a video or a GIF file or whatever you might want. You can also go to File, Export, and, you know, if you export video / media, it'll open up an Adobe Media Encoder for you, and you can choose from, you know, a lot of different formats to publish to really any platform you want to. You Yeah, so aside from just a little bit of refinement when it comes to the motion here, the easing, it's pretty good. All right, it's 9:56. That tells me, as mentioned before, I've got a nice, ripe, poolish upstairs, ready to make into a beautiful bread dough. I'm gonna do some kneading, some strengthening, and so forth. Then I'm gonna bake 4 loaves of nice, honest bread. His head jerks back a little too much. Now that I'm watching this over and over, it's like, I mean, I guess cats do react like that though, right? So he's just so derpy looking. I love him. Okay. Anyway, there we go. Explorations of modern rigging inside of Adobe Animate 2022. So thanks everyone for joining. I'll be back next week, and I'll be back with AEL Erica Lum. I hope I said your name right, Erica. So look forward to that. We'll have a live stream chat. You can watch a number of the previous... Let me see here. I might as well just open it up. Open up my Behance profile. Zip, zip, zip. There we go. So yeah. Oh, look, here we are live right now. Isn't that wonderful? So yeah, if you look on my live stream page here, you can see I've got a number of additional live stream chats that I've had, number of creative replays and so forth. So yeah, feel free to peruse any of those if you have time. All right. Time to get my bread game on. I'll see you all later. Have a nice week, everyone.